I think there's a stereotype like Asian women are very subservient. Do you find like that's something that men are seeking in dating an Asian woman?
They're not saying the words, oh, I want a subservient or submissive woman. They say, I want someone who's kind, like someone who doesn't mind, helping with the chores or helping with cooking or doesn't make that a big deal. Like they just
Yeah.
do it because it's something that they should do in a partnership and be okay with it. There are some women that are more submissive, I guess, or it can even be just very agreeable, I guess. Instead of saying submissive, it could be using the word agreeable and not being so fussy about those little things that maybe American westernized women might be. Welcome to the Asian Dating Podcast. I'm your host, May Bugenhagen. I am the founder of Two Asian Matchmakers, a boutique matchmaking company that started in Los Angeles, helping men of all ethnicities who want to date Asian women. And I started this podcast to help men and women out there find love, talk about dating, talking about relationships, and all that good stuff. And this week, I have Carolyn Hori. As an archaeologist of the soul, Carolyn is an intuitive healer and business consultant. Carolyn is able to guide you toward recognizing and expanding the possibilities you are here to offer the world now and how you can be aligned with your driven mission. As a human archaeologist, Carolyn quickly unearths what no longer serves you. She intuitively guides you with steps to grow your businesses, identifies blocks in your life, and provides actionable, inspired steps to remember who you are. So, welcome to the show, Carolyn. Before I let you speak, I wanted to let the audience out there know that this is actually a pretty unique podcast in a sense that I invited a guest to come on to actually interview me. So, welcome to the show, Carolyn. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much, May. I'm so excited for today. I'm so excited to get to ask May questions. And you all are out there listening. And I am a third generation Japanese American. So I am Asian, an Asian woman in Los Angeles. And May is super cool because she agreed, you all, to answer any question. Okay. And she did not even need the questions in advance, which is very brave. And she is in the hot seat. And I just thought it would be super fun because I want to know the answers to some of these questions that I'm going to ask May. And I thought this would just be a super fun way for her listeners to hear the answers from May. So that is why we decided to do things a little bit different. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I know we will. So
Okay.
so
I'm
with
ready.
that, May, are you ready to go? Are you like strapped in? You're ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Yes.
Okay, she's loosened up, everybody. Okay. So my first question is, so May has been a professional matchmaker for 14 years after being in corporate America. I was also in corporate America for most of my career in commercial real estate, and we both kind of made a transition to doing something different. May is doing matchmaking. I've done a little bit of matchmaking, but I am primarily now a healer and a coach, and I help people start businesses. But May, when you started your matchmaking business, what was your why? Like, why did you leave corporate America in order to start this very specific type of matchmaking? What was your why then?
My why back then, 14 years ago, was I can see how I was a successful woman, have a great job, had a great career, great friends, had a house. I was doing really, really well. And my why of starting the business was I can see how other people were struggling and people around me were struggling. I had great set of friends that were also successful, kind of in the same bubble that I was in. And I knew I wanted to help them in a way that I could use the help, like a little bit more hand holding, a little bit more guidance. It's okay if I was a little awkward with dating. I haven't dated a whole lot coming through the ranks in my 20s. So I wanted to kind of help the women who were kind of in the same boat as I was. So I guess that was my why, was I just wanted to help people because I'm naturally pretty social like you, Carolyn, pretty much of an extrovert, always willing to connect with other people and not afraid to talk to other people. So Yeah, I think that would be my why.
You know what's so funny to me is everybody calls me an extrovert, but I am actually, don't tell anybody, but I'm a secret introvert, and an extroverted introvert. Like I can turn it on like when I want to, but I actually enjoy also spending some quiet alone time too. And but yeah, really by definition, I get my power from being alone. So I actually think I am an introvert, but I can be an extrovert with the best of them. So my next question, May, is why did you decide to focus on men that want to date Asian women? And this is where we're going to get like a little juicy because, like as I mentioned to all y'all out there, I am an Asian woman, so I have like a lot of questions about May's business and how that all rolled out. So why did you decide to do that?
I decided to start a niche business. Initially, when we started the business in 2009, it was encompassing everybody. Men and women paid, men and women were the paying clients, men and women were free, all ethnicities, white, black, Latina, Middle Eastern, everybody was in it. But I found that because my business partner and I were both Asian, that naturally men started coming to us and say, okay, I want to date Asian women. I want to date someone like you. I want to date someone like her. So it just kind of naturally evolved. And then I thought, there is a niche here that could be very lucrative and really can help serve the women out there and the men out there. So it just kind of came like an accident, but a very lucky, fortunate accident. And I realized that I can relate to the women better because I kind of knew what they were going through. I liked them.
Mm-hmm.
I could relate to them when they say, "Oh, I want to date Japanese but not Korean," or "I want to date just Chinese from Taiwan," or just different countries. Like I understood what they were saying, and that really helped instead of me saying, "Wait, which countries? What's
Yeah.
I could tell by looking at someone what they are, except for you. When I met you, I was like,
I
"Wait, are you
know.
Korean?" And then you end up being Japanese. But for most part, I knew you were Chinese, Japanese, or Korean. Like I knew you weren't Thai or
Right.
Indian or whatever. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I just felt like I can explain to the women how things worked, and I could help the men who came to me and wanted to date Asian women. Like I get it because my husband is Caucasian. So if there's a Caucasian man that came to me and said all these great things about wanting to date Asian women, I'm like, oh yeah, I understand. I totally get it. So
Okay. So that leads me to my next question. And by the way, everybody out there, everybody thinks I'm Korean. So May was not unusual in that. Like even Koreans in Korea think I'm Korean. So I guess I must look Korean, but no, I'm third generation Japanese American. But my question is related to exactly what you said. Why do you think now, let's start with 2024 and 2023, why do you think men in general that are not Asian want to date Asian women?
actually, a lot of them come to me and say, I've gotten married before. I dated a Jewish woman or American woman, and we've had kids, and now I'm ready to meet somebody who I want to meet and who I want to be with. And a lot of times they've had experiences just working with someone alongside them who was Asian, who they thought liked their mannerisms, liked the way they talked, liked the way they listened, liked the way they communicated. And a lot of them mentioned that they like someone who's polite. They want someone who is respectful and not challenging them. They want someone who's supportive. So I feel like they feel that Asian women are all those things, like kind, generous with their time. They don't mind cooking a meal. They don't keep track of who did this, who did what, but rather they're just very giving of their time and their attention and their affection. So they're not out there to compete with them, and they just want someone who's favorable with the way they interact and communicate and all those good things, like all those great stereotypes. I mean, we have stereotypes for a reason, right? So
So what do you, so that you're perfectly leading me to all my questions, May. So what do you think about the stereotypes of Asian women? Because I will just speak from my experience. Like I grew up in Orange County, California, and there were not a lot of Asians, believe it or not, at the time that I grew up there. And there have always been stereotypes placed upon me. And I would generally say, like, yes, those things. I like cooking. I think I'm respectful. I'm kind. But there's a lot of stereotypes that go along with the Japanese woman that are not me. Like, I am very entrepreneurial. I am very ambitious. I am very driven. I am very competitive. I love sports. I love the ocean. I like camping. Like, all these things that are not typically Asian. But what do you think are the stereotypes of different Asian women? So let's say, like, what are the differences between like a Korean woman versus a Japanese woman versus a Chinese woman versus a Taiwanese? Like, can you pinpoint different major stereotypes amongst those ethnicities? And how do you think those are feeding into male dating ideals?
Yeah. Yeah. In the male dating ideals or fantasies for that matter, I think they go by their own experiences. If they've dealt with an Asian woman
Mm,
who's Chinese from China and
hmm
learned about the culture, learned about the food that she brought in, learned about Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year, like then they start thinking about, oh gosh, I would love to be a part of that. However, a gentleman can really love Korean women because his ex-girlfriend was Korean. So he knew about the food there and he's been to Korea and he's had interactions with the Korean parents and maybe they spoke English. So he felt like, okay, I could get along with Koreans that way. So I really think it's their experience with somebody and who they got to know. Because
mm,
if they've had no experiences
yeah.
Asian women or dating or being friends with an Asian woman, they actually don't know. They can't pick apart the differences, different cultures and different looks, and they don't even recognize the languages. So I recognize all the Asian languages, right? I could tell if they're speaking Thai, if they're
hmm
speaking Tagalog, if they're speaking Korean, Chinese, Cantonese, Mandarin, like I know all that. But if you ask the guys, the American guys for that matter, if they can tell a woman apart just by listening to her language, they can't. So they are strictly going off of their own comfort level of knowing the Asian woman who he's been friends with, or he's been platonic friends with somebody who's from Japan. And then he'll be like, I like Japanese women. I could see myself with a Japanese woman because I could see myself with my friend, but she's not interested in me, but I like that. And then I ask them, okay, well,
So,
can you tell if she's Chinese or Japanese,
yeah,
Korean? And he goes, no. So that's
yeah.
very common. But that's great. It's great if a guy comes to me and they say, oh, I want to date Asian women. I go from any country. He goes, yeah, Thai, Filipina, Taiwanese, Indonesian, Chinese, Malaysian. He doesn't know, but he's like, I like what they represent. And there is a commonality with a lot of Asian women, especially if they're from Asia. However, you're third generation. You're very Americanized, I
Americanized,
assume.
yeah.
You're very
Very.
westernized. So now you have
Yeah.
different hobbies, different beliefs. Like you maybe someone who wants to date Asian women who just came to the US and have maybe an accent might not want to date a third generation Japanese woman. So, I mean, everybody's different, right? But I'm just giving generalization.
Yeah. So before you met your husband, when you were dating, what were the stereotypes about Asian women that really maybe bothered you, or kind of like you just felt like, oh, here we go again, like stereotyping me? And because I have a couple of my own, so which I will say after I hear what your answer is. But did that ever get to you, or did that ever cross your mind?
I'm not a big feminist. I'm not a big finding reasons to get upset. Like, in fact, I feel like all the stereotypes actually work to my advantage. Like, oh, we're good at math. Okay, then I say I'm good at math and people believe me, or they let me be the scorekeeper. So there's a lot of things that actually work to my advantage. Like they say Asian women are cute, Asian women are hot. Okay, so I should live up to that standard and be hot or be cute or be considerate or be kind. And I just think throughout the years, it's hasn't worked to my disadvantage. Like, did I date Asian men and Caucasian men? Yes, of course. It didn't bother me. Like, it actually didn't bother me that I dated a short Asian guy. Like he was 5'6", I'm 5'6". I didn't have an issue with that. It's only in America that makes that a big deal. Like,
Yes,
you know,
correct.
I met him
True.
in Hong Kong and he was 5'6". He was an American guy, but it didn't bother me that he was my height. Like, why would it bother me that he's my height if I was trying to audition him to be a good husband or a good father to my kids? Like, height has nothing to do with it.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Don't even get me started on height. That is like in the matchmaking world, in the dating world, it's like, oh my God, these girls get way too hung up on height. We are always talking about that, in the matchmaking world. It's like, ladies, do yourself a favor. Only like 15% or less of men in America are 6 feet tall or more. So stop the madness with trying to be 5 feet and saying, I need a 6'5" guy or a 6'4" guy or a 6 feet tall guy. It's like, when you fall in love, the height, you're going to get over that. So yeah, I agree on that. But like one of the stereotypes, you're right. It has definitely worked to my advantage in business, in dating for the most part. Like we're automatically thought of as smart. We're automatically thought of as honest. Like you're probably not going to think that, an Asian woman walking down the street just stole your car or stole, money from you or cheated you. And, we do age pretty well. So we've got that going on. And so, yes, it does work to our advantage. But one of the stereotypes that always bothered me is like, oh, Japanese women, and I don't even know, like, tell me what your experience with this is. Like, Japanese women are very sexual. And so a guy will say like, "Oh, I love Japanese women," and then I'll say, "Oh, why?" It's like, "Oh, they're just so sexual and sensual." And I'm not saying that that's not true, but that can go across any ethnicity. But they always will say Japanese women. So I don't know if you've ever heard that. Have you heard that stereotype, or have you ever had any
Um,
clients say
no,
that?
no, only because probably I'm Chinese, so they don't really tell me that stereotype to make me jealous, but how great is it to be known as being very sexual and very sophisticated in that way and be progressive sexuality wise. But I hear like the Latina women, I mean, they get categorized as, "Ooh, hot Latina. They must be hot in bed." And it's like,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like those types of stereotypes don't actually really bother me. Growing up, I did not care that they assumed I was good at math. It's like, okay, that's a good thing to be good at math. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be good at math? Like you are using
Yeah.
math every day. Like shame on you if you're not even halfway decent um knowing how to do math, right? So yeah, stereotypes are there for a reason, right? But I feel like we can use the stereotypes to our advantage versus look at it as, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe he just thinks I'm supposed to be slender and have beautiful hair. Like, how dare he compliment me on my hair?" Like, whatever. Like that doesn't bother me at all.
Do you think so? One of the stereotypes that like I don't spend hours thinking about it, but it's like especially like online dating, right? It's like these stereotypes come in like online dating. So it's like they find out, oh, you're Japanese, and then they find out, like you're obviously they see your picture, you're Asian. But one of the other stereotypes that is not does not work for me is like, oh, you're really subservient. And
Mhm.
it's like, I think there's a stereotype like Asian women are very subservient. And it's like, and then they meet me and it's like, I am not subservient. Like, and of course, I'm happy to be that way for my man. But in general, that's just not me. Like, I'm not the person that, like, I'm kind and I'm thoughtful and I'm generous, but I am not subservient. Like, I'm not going to be subservient or make myself small to be next to you. But do you find like that's something that men are seeking in dating an Asian woman in 2024?
They're not saying the words, "Oh, I want a subservient or submissive woman." They say, "I want someone who's kind, like someone who doesn't mind, helping with the chores or helping with cooking or doesn't make that a big deal." Like they just
Yeah.
do it because it's something that they should do in a partnership and be okay with it. So I guess there are some women that are more submissive, I guess, or it can even be, just very agreeable, I guess. Instead of saying submissive, it could be using the word agreeable and not being so fussy about those little things that maybe American westernized women might be. Um, but yeah, I don't have men that come and say, "I want a submissive Asian girl," but they do say, "I want an Asian woman who's kind and nice and respectful," and, um, yeah, just a little bit
So
softer, I guess, and not so bossy and type A, like, yeah, the guys come to
yeah.
me saying, "I don't want boardroom in the bedroom," like, they just don't need that or want that.
So how much do you think of men wanting to date Asian women is related to the look, and how much do you think is related to the qualities?
I think they come hand in hand. Like you have to be somewhat attracted to the person that you're dating, or at least
Yeah.
have some kind of spark initially. So looks do play into it. I mean, again, that's something that men do come to me and say, "Oh, I want an Asian woman who looks feminine, who has like long hair, who has nice hair, who has a nice figure." You know, of course, we want all those things, right? Whether we're looking for an Asian woman or not, but, they do tend to want the stereotypical Asian woman because that's what they see, right, as attractive, and that's what they're looking for. So, yeah, I tell my single friends, I'm like, "It's hard when you own cats and when you wanna get your hair cut so short that you look like a boy." Like, that is not easy to attract a partner when you look like a cat lady, or when your hair is, like, so short that it looks like a boy's. Like, there's of course, there are men out there that like short hair, but for most part, when they come to
Yes,
me
yes,
looking
yes.
for an Asian woman, they want their hair to look like your hair, they want long
Thank you.
hair. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. For the record, I am a cat lady, and I love my cats. I love dogs too. I want a dog, but it's like I love all animals, but it's just like I totally hear what you're saying. And then it's like, those clients that come and they're like, "Well, I'm not getting any dates." And it's like, "Well, honey, you gotta put on a little makeup, get yourself together a little bit, get, in shape, get some hobbies." So it's like, I think we've anyone that's been in the matchmaking space has dealt with that kind of like person that's like, "Oh, it's not working." Well, you have to work on yourself to make it, you have to be out there and you have to improve yourself. And it's all the things. It's not just like one thing, right? Um, so when you were dating, did you have any stereotypes about dating Asian guys yourself before you met your husband?
Let's see. When I was dating Asian guys, I just wanted them to potentially have a good job, be ambitious. That was all the important things, right? Like coming from an Asian family, you're looking at, okay, you want to be educated, you want to get a good job, you want to then buy a house, you want to then have kids. So that's what I was looking for, was somebody who was educated, who had a good job, who wanted to buy a house and start a family. Like that was kind of the track that I was on or looking for. So yeah, all those things. I remember exactly thinking, okay, yeah, he's a great guy. And of course, it's easy to date while you're in college, right? Because hopefully you're birds of a feather flock together and you're around the same type of people. So the stereotypes are just, okay, did he come from a good family? Did he come from is he does he have good relationships with his siblings? How does he treat his friends? Like, all those same things that probably everyone's
Yeah.
looking for when they're dating. So,
So have you noticed any trends related to the Asian females that you're setting up in what they're looking for beyond what you just said? Like, is there anything that has been surprising that an Asian woman is coming to you and saying, "I want this in a partner"? Any ethnicity for the partner, whether they're Caucasian or Asian or any type
yeah,
of Asian. Have you
because
noticed anything kind of out of the ordinary or unusual to tell the audience?
because women now are making as great money as men, right? And women want the men to be just as accomplished or successful in their field and make good money. a lot of the women are saying that the men in their own age group are not as successful as they are financially. So the women that I talk to are open to dating men a little bit older than what they usually would date. Because coming through the ranks, when I was dating in my 20s, I was like, oh, I'll just date a guy up to 5 years older. But 10 years older, oh my gosh, that's so much. But now
Yeah.
are open to dating men up to 10 years older because they feel like, okay, if I want him to be at my level financially and my lifestyle and where I am in my career, maybe I need to look older. So I think that's a great idea for the women to be like, okay, I'm open to guys at least 10 years older, not just up to 5 years older. So I think that's been giving the women more options as they are dating out there. Other things that I'm seeing, I don't know. I wonder, you know how like that China rule way back when you can only have one kid?
That
And
changed. Yeah.
yeah. And now I see some women are like, okay, I would like to date a guy who is a single kid, right? Because then he should inherit everything that he gets from his parents, right? Like,
Oh my gosh.
that's not a bad thing to date an only child, right? Like, there's some pros and cons. Yes, he might not be as extroverted or social because he didn't grow up with siblings, but on the other hand, it's like, okay, he's gonna probably inherit everything from his parents, so that's not a bad thing. So I do get some of that now as women get older and they see that. What else? Nothing else unusual, the same things, how do they interact with their parents? How well do they get along with them, with the siblings? How close are they? Those are all very telltale signs of relationships with other people. So, yeah.
So how do you feel about this? Is one thing that I've been seeing in dating a lot recently is that women, especially Asian women, we don't typically generally look our age. Okay. So then a lot of women, and not just Asian women, but they know that they have to be open to dating older, like you were saying. One, because men date younger. So we as women have to be open to dating older. But then they're coming and they're saying, well, he doesn't have enough energy. Like, let's say he's 10 years or 12 years older. And then they say, oh, but I don't want to take care of somebody because I'm like really vibrant as a XYZ age and I don't want to take care of somebody. And what's his health status? And what? So, how do you deal with that in your practice? Because this is happening more and more that, yes, we have to be willing to date older, but then men are older. And that comes along with a whole bunch of potential issues. So
Yeah.
how do you deal with that
I
as a
mean,
matchmaker?
the life expectancy rate of men is shorter than women, right? So now you have Asian women also looking younger than their age. So maybe the easiest way to meet somebody younger is organically, right? Like, you don't have it on your name tag or something how old
Yeah.
you are like you would online dating or dating through a matchmaker. So if a woman wants to meet someone younger, then they should get out there and meet people organically. Um, I mean, how do you combat that? There's not really a way. Like, for the woman who's, looks younger for her age and she wants to date a guy who also looks good for his age, then she better look good. So she's attracting the guys that she can attract based on her photos, right? Like, that's why it's so important when you do online dating to take accurate,
Yes.
professional photos. And
Yes.
it's okay to say that on your profile, like when these photos were taken. So they actually know, because yes, they could be great photos, but it's also okay to tell the men or the women out there when this photo was taken. So they know, instead of them guessing
Yes.
like, oh, is this an old photo? But if
Yes.
it's truly your best photo, then go ahead and tell people, why not?
Good point. And I always suggest to people, like, get on a video date. Like, I'm a big proponent of getting on a video call, like, as soon as possible. Like, stop the madness of texting for 3 weeks and calling or trying to. you've got to like get to a meeting, but if at first you got to like call or get on a video call and then get to like a casual date. Like I'm always telling people all the time, like stop this madness of like you're telling your whole life story for 3 weeks and then you go on the date and then you're like, you don't have anything to talk about or you're disappointed because the whole life story doesn't match the person and you're not there's nothing you're not attracted to them physically and you spent, the past 3 weeks and then you're disappointed and you got to start over again. But I'm seeing like a lot of people in dating, these women they look amazing and they're like, no, I don't want to date someone 10 years older than me. And I'm like, well, you have to be willing to date someone 10 years older than you because men generally almost at every age bracket date younger.
Yeah.
If they're 27, they want someone 20. If they're 37, they want someone 25. And so, this is just a fact out there, ladies. Like we have to get used to it, be open to it. And like May said, like go out in real life and go meet people. But that is something that like people have been like so dependent on the apps to find all of their dating. And so people a lot of the times have forgotten how to just like organically meet people, right? And talk to people. And I think that's something that's like really important in dating and trying to shift that to get back into real life.
What do you tell your clients who don't want to date even more than 5 years older? Like, what if she's 45 and she's like, I only want to date up to 50? Like, what do you tell her?
I mean, I go with the process of like, okay, well, if you want somebody, let's start with 6 feet tall, and that's 15% of America, and then cut that down. And then you want to say, well, I only want to date 40 to 45, and he needs to be Caucasian, and he needs to make 200,000. It's like, well, you're just narrowing your options. And your goal in dating is to get out there and to meet people and to get to know someone and see how that unfolds. And everyone has so many strict parameters. And I think this is part of why apps have been killing dating and why matchmaking is so important, because they're just closing and narrowing all of the parameters. So yeah, if you put all those narrow parameters around everything, you're not going to meet anybody, or you're going to be severely limited. And then factor in like if you live somewhere far away or you're not in a big city, and then if you live somewhere like Los Angeles where body types and the entertainment industry and gender fluidity, like you factor all these things in and you're down to like this extremely narrow slice of who's available to you. And you're basically narrowing it so much that it's hard for the best of a matchmaker or an app or anybody to match you. So the goal in dating is to date and to get out there. So I kind of explain that, like the narrowing, the slicing, and then they start to realize like we've got to open our minds to the possibilities. I believe that in life, as an intuitive, as a healer, as a coach, like we have to and avail ourselves to what is available out there, and like just be willing to just have a good time and go with the flow and see how it all shakes out. But everyone wants everything to be decided, everyone thinks that like they have control over all these things. And as you get older in life, my experience has been like you really don't. You actually have so much less control than you think. And so what you only have control over is your reactions and your energy and how you're approaching the world and how you're out there, enjoying your life and doing the things that bring you joy. And if you keep cutting that, you're going to be like alone. And usually people come to matchmaking or a coach because they want to expand your horizons. And so I always tell people in my practices, like I'm a hope dealer. I'm a hope dealer in everything I do. Like I'm trying to create hope for people that you can change your career, you can change your life, you can change your dating. And with that, you have to be open-minded, because it's just not going to come in this little narrow slice that you think. What's your response to all of that?
I agree. I totally agree. And the frustrating thing is I would have women in my database who are very open to dating somebody that I vouch for and I put my stamp of approval on, and I say, hey, here's this great guy. Do you want to meet him? And right away, she's like, yes, absolutely. But the minute she becomes a paying client, those criteria that made me want to be her matchmaker
Yes.
now flipped. And now she's like, oh, I only want to date a guy who's this tall.
Yes.
I want to date a guy who makes this much money, or I only want to date a guy who's this, this, and this. And it's like, no, but I invited you to be a client because I thought you were so open and someone I wanted to work with. Right. So ladies out there listening, it's like,
Yes.
if these are your standards and your criteria that you were open to, just because you work with a matchmaker doesn't mean you like raise the
Yes.
bar to a ridiculous height that we can't even help you. And that's when you're like an annoying client versus a client you want to help, you know?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And we both have had so many of those. And it's so interesting because the more money they pay, the higher their expectations and the smaller their criteria, typically they change. And then it's defeating the purpose. We actually cannot help you at that point. We actually, when you make it so narrow and impossible for us, it does not matter how much money you're basically paying. If you're giving us like you're giving us three choices of three guys that might fit you in the entire city of Los Angeles or wherever, it's like the money is not going to determine whether or not necessarily we're going to be able to match you. And people think that, like, they think if I pay so much money, poof, all of my things that are maybe not as desirable. I'm going to use cat because I'm a cat person. Cat, maybe I'm like curvy versus not super skinny. Maybe all these things that are not as desirable. The money isn't going to change that, ladies and gentlemen, but it's usually the ladies. We're talking to you. Like, it's usually not going to change all that. And they think that it will if they pay this amount of money for a matchmaker. So everybody out there, I will say on this podcast right now, May, if you want to set me up with any guy, anytime, anywhere, just tell me where to be. I will be there. And you actually need to have that kind of rapport with your matchmaker and who you're utilizing to help you with this dating process. Because if you don't have that rapport and you don't trust that person to make a good decision for you, then you got to start over. I always say you got to do the work and get to that place where you can have some type of relationship with your tribe, with your matchmaker, with, who, and even yourself, to be open to just say, yes, we need to say yes more than we need to say no, right? And that is something that is one of the issues with modern dating. So that leads to my next question, May. What do you think are the top 3 issues that you see facing modern daters? And when I say modern, I mean anyone dating in 2024. What do you think are the top 3 issues that you see facing daters that they can actually have control over and change? That they can change?
First of all, when someone presents a date to them, whether it's a friend or somebody trying to set them up organically or blind date, or someone asks them out on an app that they think, okay, he might be good, like, just say yes. There's no reason why you're saying no. Like, let's find reasons to say yes.
Say yes.
Versus finding reasons to say no. And that also goes for second dates. It's like, try to find reasons to say yes to a second date, because you never know, like, how can you go on one date for like 60 minutes or 90 minutes and know if he's going to be a good father to your kids or a good husband to you? You don't know. You don't know.
Right.
So find reasons to say yes. I think that's the problem is the problem is single women are going to their single friends for dating advice. And they need to go to their married friends who have been successfully, happily married for like 3 years, 5 years, 12 years, 20 years, and get advice from people that really are credible, who are giving good advice.
Okay, wait, before you go to the next two, I'm going to caveat that though. I have a client, she's going to advice from her friends from college that have all been married for 20 years, haven't dated at all, and don't even know what an app is. They don't even understand how the apps work. So I agree with what May said, except that you got to take a little step back. Like, they have to know what is happening in modern dating. Like, they can't just be married, like they're married, they're in Manhattan Beach, they've been married to the same person from college who they dated for 10 years, and then they've been married for 20, and they have no clue what it is like out there. So you got to go to someone who has a clue.
Got it.
Right?
Got it. Yes. That's very good. And third of all, the advice I can give is, if dating isn't working out for you wherever you live right now, expand your territory. Like, don't just say, I want to date within 20 miles. Like, check out 50 miles, check out 2 hours, 2 hours of 4 hours of driving distance. Then you meet halfway. Like, who cares what the distance is?
You are preaching to the choir, honey. So I always say, like, distance, hair, and height. You will get over that when you fall in love. Like, people get so hung up on height, and women get so hung up on hair, and they're like, I need to have a guy who's not bald. Well, what if he shaves his head? What if he looks great bald? Like, are you going to turn away like Jason Stratham, like if he's coming to date you because he's bald, or, whatever? I'm just using a crazy example. But like, people get so caught up in these things that is not the value system of the person, right? Their height does not determine, like, are they going to be there for you when you're sick, or when you need someone, or when your kid has a problem? Like, are they going to be like, the height and the hair are not going to determine that, right?
I know.
And the apps have caused people to generally be like, look, okay, I'm kind of bagging on the apps. Look, I'm grateful for the apps, but I'm just saying, like, the apps have kind of created people to be so like disposable and swipe culture, like, oh, there's next, that people are not generally utilizing the apps for what they were meant for, which is to get to a meeting with somebody that you probably would have never met before, right? And so I've had successful relationships on apps. I'm not bagging on all the apps. I'm just saying that they need to be utilized, and there needs to be intention and thought process about how you're using the apps. And that's where people have kind of gone a little unconscious about the apps. So those are great. So you said, say yes, increase the distance. And what was the other one?
Say yes, increase the distance. What was
I guess go on. Maybe you need to give us one more. Give us one more.
No, it was take advice from married.
Yeah, take advice from people
in a relationship. Yeah.
Yes. Or people that understand modern dating. I'm going to caveat that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I want to hear, what is one of your most crazy dating stories from, you've been doing this for 14 years. You've set up a lot of dates. So tell us one of your most crazy, over the top, like, could be salacious, no holds bar, like, story.
Well, one of my favorite stories is, so matchmaking is, a lot of it is intuition. A lot of it is getting to know your client, getting to know the people in your database and who you're going to match up. But a lot of times that even the best intentions, matching two people up, doesn't work if the timing is off, right? Like, if this person is perfect for you, but he just got out of a relationship, he's not ready mentally to get back out there. So he's not a great match now, but he might be a great match later. So I keep that in mind for people. And it's also a challenge when a man has 4 kids, right? And you're trying to set him up with women that maybe just have 1 kid, and they're like, ooh, 4 kids. That's not
ideal.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even if the woman has 2 kids and they're not the same age or whatever. So my best story goes back to this guy who has 4 kids. And I said, okay, I will do the best I can to find you somebody, because as a matchmaker, I'm not guaranteeing them that I will find them their spouse, but I can guarantee them that I will find women that would say yes to him. And I can guarantee that I will work really, really hard for you and leave no stone unturned, and just network with, the 371 matchmakers I have at my fingertips. I will do everything I can for you to find you somebody to meet that meets your criteria. So he went out on maybe like 6 or 8 dates with women that also have kids, but not 4 kids. And then I thought, you know what? Who is going to be more forgiving, and who's going to be more open-minded in meeting him and really giving him a chance to develop a relationship? And I thought, you know what? I'm going to look for women that also have 4 kids. And there's not a lot of women that have 4 kids, right? I mean, it's not very common now to have more than 2 or 3 kids. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to look for women that also have 4 kids. So that's what I did. I looked for a woman with 4 kids, and I had them meet. And of course, it was a success story. They loved each other, got together, totally clicked. And yeah, they got married. So, and he likes me so much that he sent me his sister-in-law to me to try to match. So now I'm on, trying to match her too. She's free in my database, just like any women can join my database for free, and the men are the paying clients. But the moral of the story is, as a matchmaker, we have we have access to a lot of women and men out there. So what you're paying for is our time,
Yeah.
our recruiting efforts, and how we get along with other matchmakers so we could take a peek into the other databases around us. And when you hire a matchmaker, it's best that you hire somebody with experience versus somebody who's
Yes.
new, right? Because they don't
Yes.
have connections yet. They don't have the database yet. They don't have all this information that they can draw from. So that's the advantage of hiring an experienced matchmaker who's a part of other matchmaking associations and affiliates and goes to conferences and networks. Like those are the matchmakers, who are going to be ethical and also really leaves no stone unturned for you. So that is my lovely success story with a guy that, I told him it would be hard to find him a match because he has 4 kids, but you also have to
Wow.
have a matchmaker who thinks outside the box. And
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. That's like a Brady Bunch story. And I agree with that because I've been doing matchmaking for an online platform I can't believe it's been almost 3 years, but there is an experience to this and knowing how to put people together. And a lot of it, like you mentioned, is using intuition. And that was one of the reasons why I started doing a matchmaking for this online company, because I talk to people all the time. And that's one of the ways that I make my matches. But hiring a matchmaker, it's such a great investment because you are taking your precious time, which is the resource we cannot create more of, right? And if you're not comfortable sitting there swiping and screening and vetting, and you don't know how to ask the right questions, and you don't know how to get underneath the covers and figure out, like, is this person going to be a good match for me? That's what we do. And it takes practice, it takes knowledge. And also, like, if that's, people think like matchmaking, sometimes people say, oh, well, isn't it just people that have problems or issues or they can't get a date? No, that is not true. In 2024, I think if you have the resources to be able to hire a matchmaker and you have limited time, we are all busy. Like, it's like, why should you focus on swiping and screening if you could be doing a bunch of other things that, like, maybe bring you more joy, maybe are more lucrative for you, and maybe you enjoy those things versus like looking at these
Yeah.
profiles. And so I think matchmaking is a great use of resources. So I know we only have like a little bit of time left, May, but I really want to thank you for your open-mindedness to have this conversation. It's so great to hear your perspectives, and I agree with like everything that you've shared. And I think that this will help. This conversation can hopefully help a lot of people. But as an intuitive, I pulled a card for your listeners. So this is from the Archetypes Guidebook, Kim Kranz. I love this book, and I pulled a card and I said, what would help May's listeners today, and what do they need to know about dating? So I pulled this card. It's called The Village. And I'll just summarize briefly, but I think this is perfectly in line with kind of where we went with this conversation. And it says, the village presents us with a conundrum. On one hand, it is the place that feels most like home, the place to which you can always return. Nostalgia and comfort draws us back. On the other hand, it is the very place you must leave in order to grow. Okay, so there's a lot more to that, but what I'm gonna intuit from that card related to this is, get outside your comfort zone, do something a little bit different, say yes to those opportunities, open up your parameters, grow and like change and be open. And if May calls you and is wanting to set you up, you say yes and you go wherever she tells you. So thank you so much, May. I really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Well, how can I support you? How do people find you? Like what if they want to work with you? How do they contact you?
Thank you. So my website, carolynhori.com, you can book a clarity consultation on there for free. I really am passionate about helping people uncover their blocks and uncover that top layer that has kind of buried them from remembering who they really are. So I really have focused a lot on business. I come from a corporate business, real estate background, and I love business, but I really am shifting my practice a lot to be the archeologist of the soul, like what May said in my bio, and to really help people in all aspects of their life. I am super focused right now on waking people up to their mission, because I feel like the more people are in their mission and tying their mission and their purpose to whatever they're doing in business or in life, the world is going to be a better place. So if you just have any curiosity about that, I welcome you to book a free time on my website. So
Yes,
thank you.
I will include all of that in the show notes. And just to piggyback on what you were saying, like, hey, audience who's listening, just go anywhere that may set you up. And so the women out there, please go to my website at twoasianmatchmakers.com. Click under where it says Women Start Here. Fill out a profile with me so I know where to find you. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're in LA, Colorado, Indiana, Maine, wherever it may be. If you're single and you're looking, especially if distance is not an issue, I have guys out there who are looking, and other matchmakers come to me wanting to get help in finding a match for their male clients. So please register with me. And then if you're looking to hire a matchmaker, I'm available. So I would love to speak with you. And Carolyn, thank you so much for all of your enthusiasm, your questions, and all of your great intellect in today's conversation. So
thank you. Thanks, May. It was really fun.
Yeah, I will see you later. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.